Tonight's episode of Law & Order will be broadcast Sunday, December 4th at 2 p.m. so that we may bring you the following KARE TV special presentation. Tonight,
the university thinks I'm guilty. They've already said that I'm guilty. The president has spoken and said I'm guilty. And the Board of Regents, the head of the Board of Regents has said I'm guilty. But I'm not guilty of anything.
Are you a scapegoat, in your opinion?
Absolutely.
controversy surrounding an experimental drug, ALG, has left legendary transplant surgeon John Najarian fighting for his professional life. And it's getting personal for former Mystic Lake President Leonard Prescott. After building a casino empire, allegations of sexual harassment and misuse of company funds fueled his own cousin's mutiny against him.
I think that he would maybe just assume that I never showed up in the public eye again.
Retired Twins owner Calvin Griffith is far from the public eye these days, enjoying life away, but never too far away from baseball. And Mary Kay millionaire Shirley Hutton is saying goodbye to the career that gave her everything, except...
You're looking for a husband.
Well, of course I'm looking. I mean, I'm not scrounging around in the street or in the bars, but...
But you might.
I won't turn the right one away.
All tonight on a Pat Miles special.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight. There is perhaps nothing as beautiful as fall and the changing colors of the trees. And yet there is nothing as frightening as this change as we approach winter here in Minnesota. Each of tonight's guests is also facing change. Dr. John Nagerian, the world-renowned surgeon, now under siege by the same university that made him famous. For Calvin Griffith, in retirement, he still longs to be involved with the Twins baseball team and still believes he has something to contribute. Leonard Prescott is facing enormous changes. Ousted by his tribe, he no longer runs Mystic Lake Casino. Remember the old saying, doctor, lawyer, Indian chief? The difference, says Leonard, is there's only one job and one tribe for an Indian chief. And then there's Shirley Hutton, Mary Kay Cosmetics' most famous and successful salesperson. She's facing mandatory retirement, but what's difficult is finding the right man to share her incredible lifestyle. We'll be right back.
Surgery is probably the most interesting of all the professions, I feel. And the reason for it is because you do something. In medicine, you make a diagnosis, you prescribe medications. In surgery, you get an opportunity to see people, take care of them, and then do something very active and for them, and I think this is the intrigue. Almost from the beginning, I wanted to be a surgeon. You know, this is very interesting. Look how the renal artery goes way down.
He scored the highest grade in the nation on his surgery board exams. He developed a revolutionary anti-rejection serum for transplant patients. And he built a world-renowned medical department at the University of Minnesota.
Well, I think what we ought to do is get you well in and fix you up, huh?
But Dr. John Najarian has become most famous for his benevolent bedside manner. A doctor who not only cures, but cares. Something he says he learned from the doctors who took care of him when at the age of 12 he suffered a ruptured appendix.
They had this passion that for other people, the fact you could do something for other people that was that important. I couldn't think of anybody I could put higher than the doctors and nurses that took care of me.
There wasn't enough family money to send John to medical school, so he paid his own way, playing football for the University of California. He was team captain when the Berkeley Bears went to the 1949 Rose Bowl. During his last 3 years of medical school, he played semi-professional football in San Francisco. That job and giving blood, he says, kept him financially afloat until he finished school. Early in his career, he caught the eye of the University of Minnesota, a school looking to start a transplant program. By 1969, Dr. John Najarian was operating what was to become one of the premier surgery departments in the country.
I thought the opportunities were so great here, and we could make it into the best surgical department in the country, which it is today. I mean, by any standard you want to cut.
What, in your opinion, was your most interesting case? Everybody remembers, of course, Jamie Fisk.
She was interesting for a variety of reasons, and one of them was that had never been done before. Nobody had transplanted a little infant like that before with a liver transplant. When I came out of the operating room and found all these people down there, and the hospital lobby was filled with cameras, it was a little scary, but delightful that we could say that everything went well. And here she is now, a 13, 14-year-old little girl. Looks just wonderful.
Well, it was certainly good for your program, too, wasn't it?
It helped our program, sure. One of the reasons why University of Minnesota was such an excellent medical school was that it had strong department heads, and the dean allowed the department heads to develop their departments. And they did that, and it worked.
For 25 years. Most recently, however.
Well, other things happened, and it happens to do with the business, the problem that we've had with the ALG thing. And that's just an unfortunate set of circumstances in which there's been no wrongdoing whatsoever. But this thing has got a life of its own.
The controversy, which continues to swirl, involves the drug ALG, the serum John discovered in California and brought with him to Minnesota. Quite simply, it prevents transplant patients from rejecting their new organs. Doctors all over the world have used it. Today, however, ALG is no longer being produced. A brand new building at the university where it was to be manufactured stands empty. And after 27 years, the university's most famous surgeon was replaced as chief of surgery and is now facing tenure termination proceedings. In the meantime, the FBI continues a criminal investigation into possible fraud in the ALG program.
What went wrong, in your opinion, John?
I think it just got ahead of the man who was running it. And as I said, it just became too good, that everybody wanted it.
But all the articles you read about it, John, basically say that the adverse effects were not reported properly. That it was not to be sold for profit, and it was. That it had been 20 years and still hadn't been licensed.
All those things are answerable. Number one, it was never sold. There was cost recovery, which you can do with investigational drugs, which was approved by the FDA.
But there was profit.
There wasn't any profit, and there were reserves that were built up.
Big reserves, though.
These reserves were used for research on ALG itself and for building the building. The reason why it wasn't approved for 20 years is the simple fact that there wasn't a building which it could be used, that it could be manufactured in. We built one with the Regent's approval on the St. Paul campus that eventually cost $15 million. That came from the reserves of the ALG.
Did you make any mistakes?
I wasn't even involved. I was a signator.
But should you have been more involved as the head of that department?
Now, in retrospect, it's easy to say that maybe I should have looked into why they were getting behind on certain things, but they did nothing wrong. They just didn't get. Some places were using the material and weren't sending their reports in a timely fashion.
Pat, this is much more than paperwork. It really has to do with the basic integrity of the research. The action taken by the university, of course, demonstrates that no matter how big and famous a person is, they have to be held accountable when fundamental issues are at stake, and especially in this case when vulnerable people are participating in experimental work and are not properly informed.
Nobody got hurt from it. Many lives were saved because of it, and it was never sold. Today, one of the biggest gripes in the country is that the people that are using something that's not as good, that is produced by a drug house, are paying 5 times as much as the cost recovery they were giving us for something that was better.
You know, if I understand you right, John, you're basically saying that you were busy doing your job, not running that program.
Yeah. Well,
But there are a lot of people who you know, who don't buy the argument that as head of department, you shouldn't have been keeping on top of it.
The way you run a department as big as ours, I don't go down and micromanage those.
But
that's why you put good people there, and I had a good person there.
Let me play the devil's advocate, because the university is saying...
He doesn't need an advocate.
The university is saying, basically, that they did the same thing. They put you in charge. They put their faith in you.
What they did was they hired me to come and do teaching, research, and clinical activities, and administer the department. They didn't hire me to run a laboratory that made a product that was being used in this type of research. They thought for sure that I was taking some money out of this or something like that. Not true.
You never took any money.
Not a dime.
But
But
the head of your program did.
Yes, that was different. That was different, and that was sad. And he was replaced.
Are you a scapegoat, in your opinion?
Absolutely.
Is getting away to your place on the river, is that an escape for you from all of this?
Oh, yeah. All of a sudden, everything else doesn't matter any longer. I leave all my problems at work.
And of course, when you're dealing with shade, about the only thing you can do that does well is in patients in hospice. This year I put in some begonias here. Look at this.
How'd you get into gardening?
Just something to do. Once you're a transplanter, I guess you transplant anything.
Look at the boat out there. Hi.
Your family's really been, I mean, you have a close-knit family. That has got to have been a good support system for you.
My boys are the best thing, and the nice thing about it is they're all each other's best friends.
John and his wife Minette have 4 sons. The couple met when John was a resident at San Francisco General and Minette was working there as a nurse. Theirs is a tight-knit marriage, a close family. And John says he worries constantly about the effect the ALG controversy is having on them. Has this all changed him, Minette?
Yes, I think he's gotten a lot older, I think. He probably won't like for me to say that. But I think he has. I think for a while, I think he felt really defeated. And finally, through the help of many, many friends, said, you just shape up, you know, you just come and you be with us and be around because we all respect you and love you. And I thought, you know, what else? I mean, you can't just curl up and die.
Let's go, Goat.
In public, John is far from a man ready to curl up or give in. He continues an active life in the community, and he hasn't stopped rooting for the Gophers.
Not a day passes that people don't come up to me. A dozen people. And they'll come up to me and they'll say, we're behind you 100%. And I guess that's what gives me the courage and the support that allows me to go on.
Why? I mean, the university has basically said, we want you to go. And yet you've stayed at the university.
Pat, I've done nothing wrong. I was recruited here to run a department of surgery. I was recruited here to teach. I'm still teaching, still doing my clinical work. And the students and the residents, I wouldn't have it any other way. Now, if they throw me out, so be it. But in the meantime, I'm not leaving on my own.
You get it? It's a really complicated camera, isn't it? I mean, you know, that's about as close to Nikon as you can get.
Kyoto, Japan, a classic, ancient city which was once the capital of Japan. Last August, it was also the site of an international conference of transplant surgeons. As a founding member of the organization in the early 60s and now its newly inducted president, John Najarian is a celebrity among this group, respected for his work and his ability to balance science with humanity.
Again now, I think Dr. Opels has missed the point. My distinguished colleague has shown you many slides like this, and he adds up large numbers, and if the numbers get large enough, he calls them statistically significant. I don't argue with that, but are they clinically meaningful?
You can't forget the humanism and the human beings and the faces, because you can't just look at numbers.
John is not only a key presenter and contributor at this World Conference, his research is quoted. He is recognized, even revered by people who want his advice.
Twice a month they should be doing a transplant. Seriously consider at this point, if there is a living donor available. I mean, this is the first time that's been shown in a BB rat. Is that not true?
Right.
I bet you're the only medical student here.
I think I am.
Roy may be the only medical student at the conference, but he is one of many here who trained under John Najarian. Besides his regular class of students at the university each year, he's instructed fellows from around the world who then become administrators and professors in their own countries.
John is an international model, and very many people look up to him. His trainees are all over, and they're in the Caribbean and in Latin America, of course, the United States, Canada, Europe, and Asia. So he continues to be an advisor for you forever.
The primary reason for having this meeting is an opportunity to have the new council together to make some...
It is an amazing contrast. In a year filled with humiliating charges of wrongdoing at home, John commands a world stage before this council of international transplant leaders gathered in Japan to share information, research, and surgical breakthroughs.
Are they amazed at what's going on here in Minnesota?
They're absolutely beside themselves. They feel like they can't understand it. You see, this would never happen anywhere else.
Couldn't you have formed your own company and produced that drug?
Oh, yeah.
And become a multimillionaire?
Yeah,
I mean,
no
other
question.
doctors said that you did it.
Oh, yeah.
Why didn't you do that, John? You wouldn't be in all this trouble.
That's not why I went into medicine, Pat. I went into medicine to take care of people. And hopefully, to my dying day, I'll be able to continue to do that.
And you're going to keep doing it here.
And I'm going to keep doing it here.
Still ahead. Once a school teacher, now singer Sheryl Crow's giving lessons on how to hit the top of the Billboard chart. And Shirley Hutton's vacating the top sales position in Mary Kay Cosmetics after racking up a millionaire salary.
Money doesn't give you happiness. Mother taught me that, but it certainly does a lot of fun, nice things.
And next, former Twins owner Calvin Griffith is down on the farm in Montana. Retired at 82, he's finally getting respect for running his team the old-fashioned way.
Somebody told me that when you were managing, you used to write trades on napkins and do contracts with a handshake. And
We had people that were honest.
When a Pat Miles special continues.
Of course, I'd go all the way back to the day of Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth used to call me Little. Guy that can win you a ball game any day with a bat or his glove, and the way he hustles and everything else.
He spent his entire life in baseball, so it's no surprise that Calvin Griffith knows all the legends of the game. What's amazing is that today he's become a baseball legend himself. Born in Montreal, Calvin was the eldest son of an alcoholic father, who eventually sent his son and Calvin's sister Thelma off to Washington, where relatives agreed to raise the two. That's where Calvin met his uncle Clark Griffith, the man who took care of him and introduced him to the world of Major League Baseball. Griffith was part owner of the Washington Senators, the team Calvin later inherited from his uncle and moved to the Twin Cities.
Twins president and co-owner Calvin Griffith, the most knowledgeable of all baseball's owner executives.
Ironically, it was Calvin who early on recruited the likes of Ken Herbert, Gary Gaetti, and Kirby Puckett, stars whose rising salaries ended up putting Calvin out of business. In 1984, during an emotional ceremony at the Metrodome, Calvin sold the club to banker Carl Pohlad.
We were the only club in baseball that didn't have a sideline. Our family was in baseball for 93 years in American League, and all we had was the game of baseball to make a living out of.
Well, how do you give something like that up?
Well, I tell you, Pat, I had to give it up because I was going to have to start borrowing money. I thought I'd better sell it and get a little money in my pocket before I went broke.
What was the best time for you in Minnesota?
Well, I guess the best time was when we won the pennant in 65.
And what was the worst time?
Well, I guess maybe the situation that came out of Waseca.
The racist comments?
Yeah, racist story.
The story, says Calvin, ruined his reputation. It described the Twins owner as allegedly telling a group of Waseca businessmen that he moved his team from Washington to Minnesota because there were so few black people living here. Calvin says his words were taken out of context and misunderstood by a newspaper trying to beef up its circulation.
Do you regret now saying that?
No, I don't regret it because it happened. And what happens, you might as well just tell the truth. I get myself into trouble by telling the truth.
You know, you're at an age, though, Calvin, where I'm sure you've sat back and reflected on your career and on your life. I mean, anything you would have done differently?
Paid myself more money.
After he retired, Calvin moved to his home on the Atlantic coast in Florida, and this is where he spends time in the winter.
I try to do it every day. My lotto ticket. I play 5 of them, and I'm lucky to get 1 or 2 numbers.
But the numbers he remains most interested in are still the baseball stats. And if he's not watching a game on television, he's looking for a seat in the nearest ballpark.
Beautiful. It's really a great ballpark.
Hi, how are you today?
All right, all right.
Enjoy the game.
Thank you. Any kind of a game of baseball, I enjoy.
Mr. Griffith, sir.
All right,
how are you, sir?
Especially when you see ball players that used to play for me in Minnesota, like Gagne and Gaetti.
Number 8, Gary Gaetti.
Yeah, I want to holler at him.
Hey, Gary.
Gary, you got to go to right field with that pitch. Yeah. You can't beat a ballpark with all these people, can you?
But you don't go to the Twins games.
No, I don't go to the Twins games.
Now, why is that?
I don't have my box. My box was taken away from me.
And you couldn't have negotiated that as part of your sale?
I thought I had. I told Pohlad that Max Winters gave it to me.
Although Carl Pohlad refused to comment publicly, a spokesman at his office said Calvin was given the use of his suite for a period of time, but eventually would have been required to pay for it. With millions of dollars in his pocket from the sale of the team, obviously Calvin could afford it, but told us he rejected Pohlad's offer as a matter of principle.
If you had that box, would you be going to those games?
I would have, yes. I would have stayed here. I wouldn't have gone to Montana.
Losing that box drove you out of Minnesota.
That's right. Holy cow. People would be really surprised about what Griffith does during a summer vacation.
Calvin's summer home is located in Montana, where his second wife owns a llama ranch outside Helena.
Look at the wool on that baby.
Calvin lives in a middle-class neighborhood close to the local ball field where the minor league Helena Brewers play. At the stadium, they hold a seat for Calvin with his own nameplate. But baseball in this beautiful western town isn't the only thing Calvin's found to occupy his time.
Love to go fishing. Come on, baby. Yeah, I go up there on the Missouri River. Of course, it gets a little irritating if you don't get a bite once in a while, but... Oh!
You got business?
Yeah.
Oh, my. I think he got a little rainbow.
Look at it jump.
I think the more active you are, the younger you stay. The more you associate with people, the better it is. That's what all you do is just shoot the bull. That's all there is to it.
That's what you do in the boat?
Yeah, and now.
Man, that is a monster.
Would you still be working if you could?
I always wanted to work until I was 85. That's when Clark Griffith died, when he was 85.
And he worked up until the day he
Yes,
died.
right.
Is he the man you admire most in your life?
I have to, because if it wasn't for him, I don't know where I'd be today.
What do you think about baseball today? I mean, here we sit in the midst of this big strike.
I think the owners, in a way, got scared of themselves. They were afraid to get criticized. They went out and started paying all these silly salaries to these ball players. So the owners, I think they finally showed enough intestinal fortitude to hold the line on them this year.
You've been through so many ups and downs, and now you're considered a genius again. Everything you said 30 years ago about arbitration, about free agency, it's all coming true.
Yes, I feel much better, and people tell me that right to my face.
What has Calvin Griffith done for baseball that will always be remembered?
Oh, boy. I don't know, Pat. Well, I tell you, I think I've been very honest with people, and I think that we were 100% baseball. We didn't give them winners all the time, but we gave them a lot of great ball players, which I'm very proud of.
Coming up, Sheryl Crow has become rock royalty after the release of her first CD, while former casino king Leonard Prescott has been dethroned by his own cousin. But first, only retirement could force Shirley Hutton to give up her crown as the richest and most successful Mary Kay sales director ever.
So everybody's going to assume you're 65.
They're going to assume
that's usually when people retire.
They will never know unless they know when I graduated from Wilmer High School.
When a Pat Miles special continues.
My slogan in the company, my favorite slogan, we have a favorite song and all that stuff. Mine is, if it is to be, it's up to me. And I'm sorry to have to say that, but if whatever it's been since I was a little girl, if I needed something, I
As a television talk show host on WCCO, she was earning $11,000 a year in the early 1970s when, on a fluke, she started selling Mary Kay cosmetics. It turned out to be a perfect fit, and she went on to become the top sales director in the nation, a Mary Kay guru to thousands of women all across the country. Next month, after 21 years with the company, after earning over $15 million, she'll retire as a legend in her field.
I think it feels great. You know, everybody's saying to me, aren't you going to miss it? Pat, I've worked since I was 11. Am I going to miss it? No.
This is I mean, you're forced to retire.
Yeah.
Is it a certain age?
For me, the criteria was that when I reached 42, is that a good age for me to say I am? How old are you, Pat? I'm not any older than you, am I?
No, do you not like
to say? Are you asking me how old I am?
Well, do you not like to say?
Gosh, I think I'm blushing. I don't like to say. But you know what? The only reason I don't...
But is it an age thing?
It is an age thing.
It is an age thing.
The insurance company who takes care of that insists that when someone reaches 65, they must retire. And I hate it. And she hates it. We all hate it. Because I feel like we have these terribly fabulous people, wonderful people, who could go on for maybe 10 more years if they so desired.
Well, you've spilled the beans on her age now, Mary Kay.
Well, when you see her, you'll know that it's very hard to believe that.
Mary Kay Ash started her company over 30 years ago with a few $1,000s and a room in a shopping center storefront. Today, she presides over an international corporation headquartered in Dallas, Texas. All the Mary Kay products are manufactured here in a building located next to the company's corporate offices. And there are daily tours of the Mary Kay Museum. But most prominently displayed are the photographs of the women who have built the business. And number one among this elite group is Shirley Hutton, at the top in sales and a close friend and traveling companion of the company's matriarch. What do you think, what qualities